Hi, a film I had meant to catch up with some time ago, but for some reason never really got round to it, is Ridley Scott's All the Money in the World. It's based on a true story of the kidnapping of John Paul Getty III in 1973, when he, one of the younger members of one of the richest families in the world, was kidnapped in Rome, and his grandfather, John Paul Getty, the richest man who had ever lived at that time, refused to pay a single penny of the ransom, apparently justifying it on the grounds that that would make any of his other grandchildren targets for kidnapping, but also because he was famously incredibly tight fisted despite being a billionaire. The film had been quite controversial when it was being assembled because originally cast in the role of Getty Sr. was Kevin Spacey, who was going to play the role under very heavy makeup. While the film was in post production and while it was pretty much finished, all the news about Spacey's private life and the allegations against him came out, and he was removed from the film. And Ridley Scott showing off really what he can do. I mean, he was really at his best in this. Managed to reshoot all of the Getty scenes, 22 scenes, in 8 days, with Christopher Plummer cast in his place. Excuse me. Um, so we have an slightly odd hybrid film in that part of it was filmed months earlier, and then all the Getty senior scenes were filmed at a very, very short window, less than 6 weeks before the film came out. The result is a bit of a split production. Mostly, and I would say about three-quarters of it, is a really exciting, engaging, stylish suspense thriller based on true events. The performances are very fine. The lead is really Michelle Williams as Getty the Third's mother, who married into the family, and she's absolutely terrific in this, and her performance really should have received greater recognition. Mark Wahlberg plays a fixer, a former CIA operator who works for Getty, who was drafted in to assist with the kidnapping and the investigation. But it's really overshadowed by Christopher Plummer as Getty himself, who effortlessly dominates every scene. He is an astonishing actor and a brilliant presence, and he was Oscar nominated for his role, quite rightly, delivering such a combination of charm and menace, and in such a short time scale, having had almost no time to prepare for the role, is really remarkable. The problem with the film is that it falls apart in the last quarter. The circumstances of Getty Jr.'s recovery are a matter of fact. The film completely fudges them and creates a last minute chase to capture him before the kidnappers get to him, cross-cutting it with Getty Sr.'s death as though the two things are happening at the same time, and showing Michelle Williams' character as inheriting the Getty estate and deciding what to do next with this vast fortune that's fallen into her lap. None of that happened. Getty Jr. was recovered. Getty Sr. died 18 months later. He was very old. And Getty Jr. himself had two other sons, aside from John Paul Getty Jr. and John Paul Getty III, who was the one who was kidnapped. But he had Getty Sr. had two other sons who are completely ignored in the film, and it suggested that they don't even exist. And I thought it was odd that they'd taken such huge liberties with resolving this story. So the more I read into it, the more I realised how much of the rest of the film has actually been completely fabricated. So it wound up really having the same problem, or a very similar problem, to Bohemian Rhapsody, which is that huge amounts of this supposedly true story have been fabricated in order to adhere to Hollywood scriptwriting tropes. It's rescued because of the strength of the performances and the strength of the directing, which was not the case with Bohemian Rhapsody, which had one fair impersonation at the centre of it and some appalling direction and editing. That's not the case here. All the Money in the World is a far superior product to Bohemian Rhapsody. but it's hamstrung by the same failure to adhere to truth, or at least bending the truth towards a good story instead of completely fabricating it. As a result, I found it to be very handsomely made, very well acted, but ultimately quite a significant letdown.